Wholesaling is not a real estate business. Wholesaling is a sales and marketing business. Real estate is just simply the widget that kind of comes along with it. People get into this and they're like, I'm gonna start wholesaling and then I'm gonna transition to this, transition to this. This is why when people get caught with one or two deals that are bad, it takes them out of the game. The goal of wholesaling is never really to stop it, but to really have it to hand off some parts to other people. So it takes you out of the business, you get more of your time back. So it's not a constant hustle. And then from there, you have the funds to do like what we've done, invest in some syndications and really kind of live life on our terms.
So let's talk wholesaling for a second. Wholesaling has been around for a little while, but you've found a way to do this virtually, because a lot of times when people think of wholesaling, they're going to go out in their own market. They're going to go, pound the streets, look for the off-market deals to try to find a juicy deal that they can then find an investor that wants to buy that deal from them. So how is it in this market, because it is very competitive out there, how is it you're still able to find deals that have meat on the bone for the wholesaler to make money?
Yeah, great question. So this time right now is kind of like the golden age of wholesaling, right? This is probably one of the best times to wholesale that we've seen in the last 10 years. The reason for that is because there's a lot of motivation out there right now. Inflation is up, prices are up, people are behind in their credit card payments, they're getting behind on their car payments, and that's all signaling something greater that could be coming. But in the meantime, there's a lot of people right now that have significant motivation. And let me share with you why right now is the best time, even outside of the motivation, because the stress is the number one thing that a wholesaler needs to have to be able to even get deals, right? So the second part to that is back in 2022, there was a study done by a large data company. And they said that at the time in 2022, there was 80,000 wholesalers in the market, right? The study was done recently, again, and now there's only 10,000 wholesalers in the market. Nationwide.
Really? 70,000 wholesalers have disappeared?
70,000 exited. 70,000 exited between 2022 and 2023. So this is why a lot of wholesalers who are doing marketing right now, they're seeing a much greater response to the marketing they're doing. They're having a lot more sellers raise their hand. Not as many sellers before are screaming from the rooftops that I got 10 offers on my property. What are you going to do? The market's flipped. It's now a buyer's market. So there's more sellers out. There's more buyers out there than sellers. And no, the other way. There's more sellers out there than buyers. Yes. And because of that, buyers can be picky right now. So you can make lower offers. The goal is obviously to solve the seller situation, to solve their problem, but you can make lower offers right now and have sellers realistically accept them. So it's a big shift. And then when it comes to doing this virtually, so before the pandemic, virtual was unheard of.
Totally unheard of. I mean,
totally unheard of. Yeah. And there was a lot of sellers that would give you pushback over the phone because they just didn't feel comfortable. They didn't understand. They don't understand how someone could just make a sight unseen offer to them over the phone and just do everything on the phone and never see the property. It doesn't compute with them, right? So we had to overcome a lot of objections there. But after the pandemic, it's almost went from becoming an unheard of thing or a luxury to a requirement. Sellers expect it today. People are very busy. And what they're seeing is big companies like Zillow Home Offers, OfferPad, Open Door, all these big companies, legitimate companies that have been doing this for a long time, Wall Street level companies are doing this virtually. So it's just like a switch flipped in their mind where they're like, if these people, these big reputable companies are doing it, then it's not that big of a deal if someone wants to make an offer sight unseen. Like, I understand now. So now there's that proof of concept, which makes being a virtual wholesaler 10 times easier.
So how are you finding the deals though? What are the top sources for actually locating these deals? Because it's not I suppose you could just go through the MLS, find a deal out there, or just start making low offers on them. And eventually you'll get one or two, but that just seems like a lot of work to kind of get a result. And I know back, and I haven't wholesaled in quite some time. So just being honest to the audience, but back when we were doing that, when we had our show and everything else, we were basically just going out and doing all the traditional ways to find the deals that we would do to find the flips that we were doing. And then we just got too many of them. So we'd wholesale off the excess. But
Yeah.
the market's different now. And it takes a lot. I mean, I see in our market, which is the Buffalo market, pretty hot real estate market right now. I don't know why, but it is. There are so many real estate investors here, all scrambling for the deals, the off market deals. And I hear it because we do a RIA, and they're all complaining about how hard it is to find deals. But so how are you finding deals and helping all your students find deals?
Yeah, great question. So here's the thing. So let's talk about the MLS part first, and then we can get to the deal part. Is that okay?
That's good.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So the MLS site. So the number one, you're right. It is absolutely a lot of work to be able to get a deal under contract on the MLS. And for those listening who don't know what that is, it's just properties that are listed with a realtor, right? And so the issue there is you have a professional negotiator between you and the property owner. So that's number one, right? You're not dealing with someone who is just motivated to solve a problem. You're dealing with someone who wants the highest price and the highest commission. So that's obstacle number one, and why newbies should never go direct to agent. They should always go direct to seller, right? The second problem with getting deals in the MLS, especially for people who are brand new, is that you have tighter terms, right? So you have shorter inspection periods, which is the period a wholesaler uses to market the contract to a buyer and secure a buyer. So that's a problem, especially if you're brand new. You don't have a big list of buyers. You're not going to be able to sell that deal very quickly. So you need more time, right? The second piece to that is that they're going to require higher deposits. A lot of people, when they're first getting into this business, they don't have $5,000 to put down for an earnest money deposit, or $1,000, $2,000. And so if you're doing that over the course of 5 properties, you have $5,000 to $10,000 outlaid there. So while people may look at going direct to agent like, hey, I don't have to spend money in marketing and give these deals for free, you're really not, because it's tying up capital in other ways. And then on top of that, it's your fees, your assignment fees are going to be much smaller because everyone's competing over the same deals, right? Now, to flip it, let's talk about how we get deals and how our clients get deals. This is direct to seller. So direct to seller is by far the best way for you to get started, because there's no professional negotiator between you and the seller, right? You're not dealing with an experienced salesperson on the other side. You have better terms because you don't have them dictating what your inspection period is or how long it is. They're not telling you how much you have to put down for a deposit. In most cases, we put down $100 for our deposit, and that's it.
And you never get pushback from the seller on that.
Occasionally we get pushback, but here's what we tell the seller. Hey, totally get it. The reason we only put down $100 is because it's a cash sale and we're paying cash. There's no need to put down a large deposit. And if they're like, well, my property isn't just like a $50,000 property. I get it. We put down the same amount if it's a $100,000 property or a $500,000 property. And they're like, okay. The key is keeping your responses short and to the point. Because if you go on this long, drawn out response, or like you're trying to convince them, then that's where they poke holes in it and it inspires doubt. But if you answer confidently and short, then 9 times out of 10, you're not going to have a problem.
Okay. The other thing too, that I think we got to take a step back on is, wholesaling as a whole. The main reason a lot of people would look at wholesaling is, with real estate investing, make no two ways about it. Everybody knows it's a great way that you can become, wealthy, or you can make good money in real estate. Now, I know there's different cycles that are better than others, but most people that look at real estate, there's a barrier to entry, and the capital needed to get into their own deals, it's just not doable for them at that present time. Where wholesaling allows someone to come in for very little money. And you just mentioned $100 plus whatever marketing expenses, which we got to cover marketing and how you market for these off-market deals. Because it's not just like, You just open a newspaper or go online and be like, hey, what are the best
Yeah.
wholesale deals? I know AI has come in a long way, but it's still not to the point where it's going to go identify your deals. But the wholesalers, they don't need to come up with any money because they're not actually buying the property. They're not actually taking
Right.
possession of the property. You're getting the right via a contract to buy the property, and then you're selling that right to somebody else for a markup, 5, 10, 15, 20 grand. So
Yep.
that's what's so attractive about it, is it allows a demographic or a segment of the market that typically can't get into real estate investing to enter real estate at this level and start to learn the ropes, start to understand how this whole thing works, and make some great money doing that. So I just want to get that out of the way. Is there anything you'd like to add to like wholesaling 101?
Yeah, for sure. So I was that person. I was that demographic when I first got started. I didn't have a lot of money when I first got started. And I thought you needed to have a rich uncle, or you needed to have, a big bank account with tons of cash. And the truth is, when I first got into wholesaling, I saw this as my path to financial freedom because I was bouncing back from my own setback. And so when we went to this 3-day seminar and they showed us how, you could flip a piece of paper. You could make money from real estate by controlling real estate, not buying it, but controlling it. And then you could flip your contract for tens of thousands of dollars. You could do it multiple times a month. My wife and I looked at each other and I was like, this makes sense. The biggest thing that I find that people have a skewed perspective on wholesaling. Wholesaling is not a real estate business. Wholesaling is a sales and marketing business. Real estate is just simply the widget that kind of comes along with it, right? So at the end of the day, as a wholesaler, it's simply a matchmaking game. You're going to help someone who wants to sell a house find someone who wants to buy a house, and you get paid for connecting them, right? So that's kind of like what wholesaling looks like there. And then the great thing is you can do this virtually. So when it comes to doing this virtually, people are very confused by that. What does virtual mean, right? Virtual is simply running that same process, but never leaving your house. You're not meeting buyers. You're not meeting sellers, not running all over the place. You're simply talking to people, having as many conversations in a day as you can, finding people who need to sell, and then solving their problem by bringing a buyer. And that's it.
I love that. No, but you had mentioned something in there that, like, when you guys first saw this, it was the perfect
Yeah.
fit for you.
Yeah.
The only problem I ever see with wholesaling, and I'd love to know kind of what your thought is that it's just transactional. So you live and die by the next deal. So, when things are good, things are really good, but you can't like just take your foot off the pedal and just expect the income to keep coming, because it is just transactional. There's no residual. It's not like there's rental income. So how have you, and specifically you, and then we can kind of go into your clients, but how have
Sure.
you transitioned from that transactional aspect of wholesaling into something that's more, I don't want to say sustainable, but something that's more, I hate the word passive too. Not thinking of the word, but just where you don't have to continuously go out there and do the next deal just to have a paycheck.
Yeah, great question. So my wife and I have been doing this for 13 years, right? And wholesaling is the vehicle that got us out of our corporate jobs over 10 years ago, right? And so we didn't use any other strategies, rentals, anything like that. Wholesaling is what got us out. So that being said, in the beginning, like any business that you start, wholesaling is very transactional. You're correct. You live and die by the next transaction, right? But wholesaling is doing a few things, right? Number one, it's teaching you what a good deal looks like and what a bad deal looks like. So when it is time for you to start buying deals and taking on a bit more risk, you can make more confident buying decisions at that point, right? I've seen too many people start with rentals, start with flips, and they expect everything to go right, and they lose their shirt and they're out of the game.
Dude, nothing
So
ever goes right in real estate.
nothing.
Period.
No, absolutely. All right. We've personally had a flip that we did where we lost 6 figures on the flip, right? So this is just an example of how things can go sideways, right? When even though you're expecting things to go right, right? So when it comes to wholesaling starts off very transactional, right? Because a mentor once told me, hustle is a season, not a lifestyle. The problem is too many people stay there, and I'll clarify what I mean by that. So I'm not saying you need to switch strategies into something else. What I'm saying is you want to start slowly removing yourself from the business, because most people get into wholesaling for one of two reasons. The first reason, they see it as a great entryway into real estate to be able to learn, make some money so they can take that money and funnel it into something else. And then there's people that fell in the category that I did, where you see it as much more of an opportunity than that surface level transaction piece. And then you start putting a team in place. You treat it as an actual business. You put a team in place, and then you slowly start removing yourself. And then like it is today, we have deals go under contract and being sold without my involvement at all. So it's semi-passive. I say semi-passive because I still have to manage the team. I still have to check in on numbers and things like that. But we've been blessed to be able to grow our business to over 7 figures and to be able to have a team that does deals and puts deals under contract while my wife and I are on vacation doing fun stuff. And it didn't happen overnight. It took us a journey to get there.
Yeah, no, that's a great answer. So you're still just focused on wholesaling. Like, do you own any rentals, any Airbnbs or anything like that?
No. So we've invested in some syndications. So that's more of like the long-term money. We have some money invested in stocks and things like that. But really our main vehicle is wholesaling for generating the income. And then that's been our real estate plan. And then once we saw that we had a predictable, proven system after 13 years of doing this, that's when we're like, we have something really special here. Because there's a lot of people, like you mentioned, Tharia, that are struggling to land that first deal, struggling to find deals. And we have a predictable, repeatable system that's worked for us for over a decade. So that's when we were like, we got to start sharing this knowledge with other people. And when we have, it's been pretty cool to see people go from not sure if they can do this, spinning their wheels in the past, trying other options, other coaches, other mentors, and not get results, and then flipping over to us and like starting to get those results because of keeping it simple. So yeah, that's really what we've seen.
How many people have you taught?
So I would say at this point, a little over 50.
Okay. And what's the success path for those 50?
Yeah. So great question. So the people that actually take action, people that are committed to this, they are serious. They are not people that expect to push a few buttons and have money fall from the sky. I try to be as real with people as I possibly can. We have an 88% success rate with our clients.
Wow.
But then again, there are people that get into this and they look at making the investment to coach as the last step. And from there, they kind of just expect things to happen. And no matter how good I am about, coaching them or how well our process works and how simple it works, you can't make people move, right? They have to want it. And that was exactly the reason why I had success in the beginning, is because I wanted it. I didn't see this as like, if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I was all in, bought it and committed.
Yeah. And I think that's a huge piece. When you burn the boats, if you will, when you have nowhere else to go, but you have to go through it, that's the best way. It's also scary for a lot of people. It's also difficult and stressful, but that's how most people make it to the level of success that you have. And, with your students, the 50, how much money do they need to have to kind of get into this? So I know there's probably a cost to work with you, but then don't they need marketing dollars to go out there and market to find these deals? I know there's a lot of wholesale gurus out there who are saying, oh, you can do this with no money out of pocket. And I got to call bullshit, because you're not going to have success with that. So what's your take on that piece?
Yeah, great question. So I like to start everybody at the same point. I don't care if someone comes to me and they say, Chris, I have $10,000 to put into marketing, or if they say, Chris, I have a couple $100 a month to put into marketing. I start everybody at the same point. And that is having massive, imperfect amounts of uncomfortable conversations with sellers, cold calling. Because the problem I've seen, people get in this business and they're like, I want leads to come to me. So they'll drop $3,000 on a direct mail campaign, not know what to look for, get a handful of leads and quit after day 45, right? I've seen people drop $10,000 on pay-per-click, PPL, and all the other PP type services and lose their shirts and be like, man, this isn't as easy as I thought it was. Why? They didn't master the conversations first. They sucked on the phone. I sucked on the phone when I first got started. But the reason why cold calling is by far the absolute best way to start is it gets reps in. It builds a muscle of consistency, which is what most people need getting started. And then on top of that, it gives you the ability and the skills. 90 days of cold calling is going to give you a 10-year education in sales and marketing.
Your real estate business lives and dies by the network and the connections that you make. I mean, after all, your network, well, it's your net worth. That's what you always heard, right? If that's an area where you desire improvement, well, Private Money Club, it's for you. PMC saves you precious time and money by bringing the real estate world, well, right to you, right in the palm of your hand. So get in on the action like so many others have by going to privatemoneyclub.com and sign up.
And so if you can get a deal cold calling, then you can get a deal with any other type of paid marketing source, and you're going to be a much better steward of that marketing investment and have much greater success.
And who are you suggesting they cold call? Like, where are they getting the houses, or I should say the sellers, to cold call? I mean, the first thing you always think is MLS, but we had kind of already covered that.
Yeah. So there's two softwares that we use to find motivated sellers. The first one is Deal Machine, and the second one is PropStream. People don't have to get both, but those are just the two that we've seen the most success with, right? So we love those services because both of them provide phone numbers with the seller's addresses that you get from that software, right? I remember 5 years ago, we were paying 6 cents to 15 cents to skip trace, which is to apply a phone number to an address to get in touch with sellers. We were skip tracing 250,000 records a year. It was a significant investment, right? But now technology's evolved where these phone numbers are included in these softwares, making it a lot easier and a much lower barrier to entry for newbies coming into this to have success, right? So to answer your question, what lists do we get? So the biggest thing we look for is motivation. The biggest mistake you can make right now with targeting motivated sellers is targeting like a broad list. So someone who just has equity in their house and they've been there for a while. That is the fastest way to light marketing dollars on fire, right? And burn your time and burn yourself out. The people that you want to go after right now are not people who want to sell, people who need to sell. The reality is, even with mortgage rates having come down, they're still a little bit higher, right? And people are sitting in their house. They're kind of locked in because even as mortgage rates have gone down lower, the issue is prices are higher, much higher than what they paid for their house originally. So the option if someone moves is to sell their house and move to something smaller and pay more for it, right? So what do we do? Like, what sellers do we target? We target sellers, again, who don't want to sell but need to sell. What that looks like is a tired landlord, someone who's tired of tenants and toilets.
Lots of those.
They own their property for 10 to 15 years. Yeah. And we want to layer on a few extra things that make them more motivated. A lot of people stop right there. They're like, tired landlords. You want to target tired landlords who don't own the property in a corporation, but an entity. So these are like newbies, right? And on top of that, they don't live in the same state that the property is located in. Okay, maybe they had to move for work. And then on top of that, the property is also vacant. So the property that made them an accidental landlord, maybe they had to get relocated for work, has now become a liability and a burden because they haven't rented it out yet. It's sitting there vacant. They're paying property taxes, HOA fees, probably. They're paying for a lot of expenses for the property sitting there, maybe even having people break in. And it's become a nightmare for them and they just want out, right? So that's just kind of like an example of people. Other people are people who inherited houses. Most people who inherit a house, they don't want it. They just want the money, right? So you look at people like that, maybe people that have liens against their property, houses that have been damaged by fire. These are all situations that cause people to need to sell, not want to sell. And then from there, you can start having good conversations.
All right. So let's take this to the next level because we kind of talked about the first side of it. You know, you got to identify the properties, cold calling, which I like that, and then using softwares. PropStream has been around forever. Like they're kind of like one of the original OG real estate softwares, more data in PropStream than probably any other software. So we use that a lot. But now somebody gets the deal. They've got it under contract. Now you got a hot potato in your hand. You've got 30 days or however long you put in the contract to get this thing moved to the end buyer that's going to pay you your assignment fee. So like now, how are you identifying, and this might be an easy discussion right now, but it's not always easy. How are you going to identify the proper buyer for these properties that you're finding?
Yeah. So when it comes to buyers, actually, I'm going to flip this, right? So when it comes to buyers, I firmly believe that you should find your buyer first before doing any seller marketing, right? Because the biggest expense to a wholesaler is the deal that you couldn't sell. And the way that you fix that is by finding your buyer first. So what a lot of wholesalers are told is that don't worry about the buyers, just focus on sellers. And if you find a good deal, it'll sell itself. The biggest problem with that is that advice is total baloney and designed to keep people stuck, right? And it keeps a lot of people spinning their wheels. So what we recommend is finding your buyer first, finding out what buyers want, having those conversations, find what they don't want, areas they want to avoid, and then taking that information and pulling a list inside Deal Machine or PropStream to identify the perfect deals, have those conversations, bring them, put them under contract, bring them to the buyers, and then wholesaling becomes so much easier. So that's really what we recommend there. And then even the step before that, when to identify a winning market, you asked the question earlier about why people are struggling in your RIA to find deals, right? So one of the things that we have as a requirement for any market that we go into is we take a look at, does this market have affordable housing? Most people are targeting the wrong types of areas to wholesale. So we like areas that have a median home price that is less than the nationwide median. So if there's someone listening to this who doesn't know what that is, the median home price is the most common type of house that's being bought and sold, and it's the one that everybody can afford. So if you're in an area where your median home price, and you want to look at the county level, if you're in an area, the median home price is like 700,000, 500,000, that's why they're struggling to do deals. They need to get into an area that is less than the median home price. So that way it's an area that has affordable housing, older homes, there's some distress there. They're going to have a lot easier job getting deals.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, if you fix it where you've got the buyer lined up, and how are they finding these buyers? They're just going to RIAs, just going online. Like, what are some of the best methods to find the people that potentially, you don't have the property yet, but you're identifying and solving a problem for the end buyer, the flipper, the real estate investor, and you're asking them, hey, what is it that you're looking for? How can I serve you? I mean, can you give me that whole?
Sure. Yeah. So finding buyers today is 1,000 times easier than it used to be. Used to be, you have to drive around, put out bandit signs, cash buyers wanted wholesale deals. Yep. So now the easy thing is there's softwares out there you can buy that actually have buyers, phone numbers, and everything like that. But typically what I recommend for people who are just getting started is Facebook groups. A lot of people think that there's no real buyers in Facebook groups. I'll let them to continue to think that while we continue to do deals. But, in Facebook groups, a strategy that we like to recommend people is looking at a Facebook group. So a local real estate investment focused Facebook group. Maybe it's a real estate investor association group. Maybe it's a real estate wholesaler and flippers group. Maybe it's real estate investors, whatever your county is group. Going in there and then looking for other wholesalers that have posted deals. And then they see and you go to the comments, you're going to see people saying, I'm a buyer, I'm a buyer, I'm a buyer, I'm a buyer. These are your buyers. So then what you want to do is reach out to those people and identify if they're one of three types of buyer contacts. Are they a real cash buyer? Are they a wholesaler? Or are they a realtor? All three of which have a place on your list. And then you want to have a conversation with them, find out where they're buying, where they want to avoid, the types of properties they want, and then get their permission to add them to your list. And this is where you're going to be sending your properties. This list of emails is where you're going to be sending these properties you get under contract that these buyers want.
Now, I don't know this to be fact, but I've heard some of the regulations and the laws have changed around this.
Yes.
Are there certain states that they require you to be a broker or realtor in order to wholesale? Or like, how does that work? Because it was like the wild, wild west back when we did this, but I know it's very different now and it's kind of state by state or county by county. How does that affect what you do?
Yeah, so there's been a lot of regulations on wholesaling, right? So local wholesaling is dying unless you want to get a real estate license if your state requires it. And virtual wholesaling is becoming the only way to do this because you could wake up one morning and your state could say, hey, by the way, you now need a real estate license. What if you don't want a real estate license? You're kind of stuck, right? Or they could say, hey, you now need to disclose X, Y, and Z to sellers, or you need to pay for a BPO, a broker's price opinion for the seller before you give them your offer. or the seller has 30 days to cancel in your agreement, regardless if you have an agreement signed, regardless if you're past your inspection period. There's all these different requirements. So you need to be able to be mobile, right? I don't mean moving to another state. I simply mean picking up the phone and being able to target sellers somewhere else that doesn't have as many restrictions or is easier. Because sometimes people will say, and you'll see these gurus online, just double close. Double closing is simply buying a property and reselling it the same day. That is not a fix in all states. And some of the laws even speak to that. The biggest thing that people want to look for is, does my state require a real estate license? What do I have to disclose to the seller? And then what do I have to disclose to the buyer? If you understand the regulations and take time to read them and understand, and not just take the dude's advice on TikTok, then you're going to be okay, because it's going to tell you one of two things. It's okay for me to do deals here, or maybe I should look somewhere else. And then the second piece to that is some of these markets are not wholesaler friendly, meaning the prices are just too high. So if you're in an area like California, certain parts of New York, it is better to do deals elsewhere because it's easier. In New York, it's very tough to do deals. It's an attorney state. You have to have attorneys on both sides, and there's just a lot of friction between you and the seller. But other states like Florida doesn't require that. And so you're literally deciding, do I want to wholesale in a state that's going to make it hard for me? Or would I rather focus somewhere else easier? And if I focus on somewhere else easier, would I get a deal much faster? And the answer is typically yes.
Yeah, and virtually makes that a lot easier. It's
A lot easier.
Again, back when I was doing it, like that didn't exist. I mean, maybe it did, but it was like so new and there was so few people doing it. Nobody had it figured out. And the software just didn't exist to really facilitate it. You would have been really pounding the pavement. And also back then, the assignment fees were like $3,000 to $5,000. If you made 10, that was like a freaking
You were a
home
rock
run.
star.
Oh yeah. So like, what are you guys getting in assignment fees nowadays?
Yeah. So what we've typically seen is the nationwide median in assignment fees is between 10 to 15,000. The more rural areas get you less of an assignment fee. The more major metro areas get you higher assignment fees. And the areas that we look in, which are typically major metros, we're typically seeing assignment fees around $15,000 or more, right? Sometimes, we'll have, like, for example, we have an assignment fee that's going to be closing here in the next couple of months. It's going to be for like $27,000, right? So that's fantastic. Back in 2021, that was like the norm. Our average assignment fee in 2021, when things were on fire, was like $24,000, right? That's changed a little bit due to the shift in the market, but now more sellers are saying yes than they were before, and they're saying yes at lower numbers, which allows us to be able to do more volume, right? But that's typically what we're seeing right now. So if you're in a more rural territory, you're going to see lower assignment fees. If you're going to see in a more major metro type of an area, that's where you're going to start seeing the 15,000, 20,000 or so.
Just interesting stuff. Yeah, it's just been a long time since it's been in the game, but I love that because what happens, a lot of wholesalers get into wholesale, then they morph into, we're going to keep a couple and flip them. And then it sounds like you may have tried that $100,000 loss. And then they're like, okay, well, we couldn't wholesale this one, but we're going to keep it, fix it, and rent it. So they start getting really wide, I guess would be a word. And their focus isn't just on that one thing that got them started and that one thing that was working. And then all of a sudden you get one bad flip or you get a rental.
Takes them out of the game.
Yeah. I mean, in real estate, the one thing I will promise you is there's always something going wrong. The water main breaking, is always something going to be happening that's going to strip your profits from you. So it's either you build it to scale or you're just going to always struggle with those things. But wholesaling is kind of a unique opportunity because if you can systematize the business and you can do what you've done, where you've got a team doing the dispo and everything else, so you're just, kind of managing the team. Now it becomes a very viable business that can kind of weather the long haul. And that now you've added this coaching division, I would assume, correct? Like you're teaching people how to do this because you've done 50.
Yep.
Let's talk a little bit about that, because is that the future for you, going deeper into that, or do you think you're still going to stay more focused on the actual wholesaling versus the coaching?
Yeah. So the thing, the thing with our mission, right? So our mission is always to impact more people. So what I love about our business, our coaching company, Virtual Wholesaling Made Simple, is that we've been able to impact a lot of lives, and I only want to continue to do more of that, right? So that company is going to continue to grow, and that's really the goal. We're going to do the same thing with this business. We are actually in the process doing the same thing with this business as we've done with our wholesaling business. Continue to grow the team, allow us to serve more people at a higher level, keep the same level of support and the success rates that our clients are seeing right now, and carrying that into just impacting more people. But alongside that, over the next several years, we're going to be actively growing our rental portfolio, investing in more things. I see some great opportunities right now with Airbnbs in certain areas, especially in Florida, with the property taxes going away. And I have a friend of mine that has just a very unique model for Airbnb, and he showed it to me, and it just totally makes sense. So we're going to be looking at more so like doing that. But the cool thing about the wholesaling side is that is more of like a deal engine now, right? So we can cherry pick the best stuff for ourselves, and then we can assign off the stuff we don't want. So going back to the example you had where people get into this and they're like, I'm going to start wholesaling and then I'm going to transition to this. This is why when people get caught with one or two deals that are bad, it takes them out of the game. And the reason it didn't take us out of the game when we got hit with that bad opportunity, because we still had a business coming in that had income coming in. We have done it for a long time, and that's been kind of like our deal engine that protect us and insulated us from that. So the goal with wholesaling is never really to stop it, but to really have it to hand off some parts to other people. So it takes you out of the business, you get more of your time back. So it's not a constant hustle. And then from there, you have the funds to do like what we've done, invest in some syndications and really kind of live life on our terms. I'm home every single day with my family. This morning, I went to the park with my son, wasn't rushed there at all, and then hopped on this amazing podcast talking with you. So I'm living my dream, and I'm just really passionate about helping others live theirs.
That's fantastic. I really love it. And if people do want to learn more about this, where would they go?
Yeah. So the best way to reach me is on Facebook. My username is Chris Logan REI. And on my page, I have a link to our free Facebook group called Virtual Wholesaling Made Simple. Go to that link, request that. We do free trainings in the group every Wednesday at 6 p.m. EST. And I'd love to see you in there and walk you through what it's like going from brand new real estate investor to confident landing your first deal and doing deals consistently so you can replace your income and take this to the level that you want.
So we'll put that in the description, but let me just repeat this back to you. Chris Logan, REI on Facebook. Okay. Then once they go there, they're going to see a link and it's going to say Virtual Wholesaling Made Simple.
Yep. They'll see a link to my free Facebook group. They click that, they'll opt in, and then they'll get a message to join the group. And then from there, they're in and we do the free trainings there. And that's where you can get the most value.
Very good. All right. We'll put that up in the description. Well, Chris, this has been great. Glad to hear you're doing well and kind of evolving, and good luck with that Airbnb, because there's definitely a lot of really, really good deals right now in that sector, because a lot of people bought those things during COVID. They got themselves in thinking it was just going to continue. And now all of a sudden they're like, hey, I don't think this is for me. And that's where you step in and you can get the really good deals. And folks, if you're listening, I think all of you need to be considering right now real estate. If you really look at it as a sector or an investment side of it, it's kind of been in a recession for almost 2 years. It's been just beat up. So right now is a great time to look at real estate investing as a very viable way to get, to build your wealth and to get yourself in the place where you want to be. Kind of like what Chris said. I mean, if that didn't strike a nerve when he said he's at home every day with his family, went to the park with his children in the morning, and then is doing a podcast, like that's pretty awesome, isn't it? The freedom. Well, that's, if you want to learn how to do it, just follow in his steps and what he did. But with that being said, Chris, thanks for your time. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, Chris. It's been fun, and I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks everybody for joining us for this episode of the Money School podcast. We'll see you on the next one.